So let's talk about how you structure a sales presentation to optimize your chances of getting the client to say yes. And let's assume the client hasn't given you an agenda, you're not in a formal process, you've just been told to come and pitch. How long should you pitch for? And how do you structure that content to maximize the chances of getting a yes? Let's start with how long. First piece of research we ever did was to try and work out where in a presentation you should put information to maximize people's recall. So on the bottom here, we've got attention span. So this is time, from the start of the presentation to when should you shut up. And then up here, there's no axes, no numbers here, because we're measuring two things. Attention is a measure of what you get now. Retention is obviously a measure of how much of that information you recall. There'll be a separate video about Ebbinghaus talking about how you forget 75% of what you get now overnight, over the next week and over the next month, and it deteriorates exponentially. So it's hard to nail retention, but it's retention that influences the sale, not attention. The two are correlated. So that's why there's no measure here. It's just where in the presentation do I maximize recall? Well, a good proxy for that is measuring when are people paying attention. And we came up with a graph by measuring people's recall and assuming that there was a correlation between recall and attention. When you ask most people what do they think this is, well, the two most common answers are it's either a smiley face, so people are paying attention at the beginning and attention at the end, but not in the middle. That's sort of loosely based on a piece of research called primacy and recency. But actually primacy and recency only works if you say to somebody, I'm going to give you a list of 5 things, and then you give them a list of 5 things and they remember the first one and the last one. It doesn't have to be 5 things. I'm going to give you a list, right? Pay attention to this, start to give them a list. They process the first one, and there's a silence at the end of the last one, so they process the last one. So people will remember the first and end things in a list higher. But if you don't say this is a list and it's just a presentation, that smiley face doesn't work. The next assumption is, well, it's a frowny face, okay? They're not paying attention, right? Then they do, and then they don't. And that's probably more like what actually happens. We think that to start off with, they're going through a phase where they're not really paying attention. They're thinking about the last meeting, the last conversation. They're trying to decide whether or not they should be here or if they're in the right meeting. And then they suddenly decide that they're going to pay attention, and they switch on, and then that plateaus. And then if it's one individual, 1 minute they're paying attention, next minute they're thinking about something else, and they literally switch off. It's binary, paying attention, not paying attention. Once one person goes, particularly if it's the leader of the group, then the rest of the group will track their attention off quite rapidly. So the attention span then is the start to the point at which the audience start to lose and switch off. It's probably, it varies, but it's probably 20 to 25 minutes. Obviously, first thing on a Monday, your attention is a lot higher than last thing on a Friday. So you know that. We know that. We know that we'll structure presentations around a 20-minute attention span for a Monday morning and a 10-minute attention span for a Friday evening. People's level of complexity and difficulty in a presentation will shorten the attention span. So if it's easy to assimilate information, you've got 25 minutes. If it's harder, it's probably more like 5 or 10 minutes. And you need to parse your information based on the complexity, the time of day, and all sorts of other factors that are in the book if you can be bothered listening to it. But it is not an hour and a half. Even if you have been given an hour and a half to present, they will not pay attention for that long. Now, in a separate video, we'll talk about what you do here in order to break people's attention and bring it back. But for now, let's work on the assumption that the best way of selling is to ask them for the business before they fall asleep. So 20 minutes. The next bit is somewhere between the start of the presentation and 3 to 4 minutes in, they make a decision. We call that decision IPD, initial purchasing decision. We don't mean purchasing the product or the service. We mean buying into the idea of listening to you. Like, I'm going to decide whether or not this is worthwhile for me. Am I going to spend the next 20 minutes paying attention, or am I not? And actually, do I like the sound of this? Am I going to listen to it positively, or is this a crock and I'm not going to listen to it? I'm going to look for the holes or the flaws. And so this influences the way people look at the rest of the information. And we think there's two mindsets. Mindset number one is positive. Their internal monologue is, well, this is really useful. This is great. How would I apply this to here? I wonder if I could do this. It's a pity Jane isn't here. We could talk about this and that, right? If you lose them, they go into what we call hole hunting. Hole hunters are the ones that are looking for the flaws in the argument. Oh, yes, but she hasn't said this. And what would Kotler say about that? And does this back up with the research? Oh, and she's a salesperson. Her lips are moving. She's obviously lying, right? They're looking for the flaws in the argument. Now, clearly, I can sell to either of these people with the right structure, but it's much more helpful to push them into here if you can. So in the first 3 to 4 minutes, what we want to be doing is to give them a reason for paying attention, and give them a reason for paying attention positively, looking for applications for the information, rather than us having to counter the hole hunting mindset. So that's the attention span. Let's pause and think about how we might structure the information around our 20-minute presentation. So most of you will have done some kind of training course for sales, and they'll have told you that the first thing you have to do is sell yourself. I'm not really sure that's true. The first thing you have to do is walk in and establish a communication with the other people, right? If they don't believe that you're the sort of person that can understand their point of view, they're not going to listen. You're not going to listen to somebody you think is the enemy. So the first thing we have to do is to establish those empathy links between us and them. Have them feel like we can see the world from their point of view. It's easy to do, kind of point out things that are similar, point out things we both do or both like, kind of talk about people we both know or we both like, or talk about things that we both have or we're both passionate about. It's really easy to break it by walking in and talking about the differences. And as most people focus on differences, we spend a lot of time coaching the team to talk about similarities and to find touch points, so that when you walk in and shake their hand, you've established empathy. Then you need to sell yourself, sell your business, sell your product in that order. They need to believe that you have credibility. Why are you listening to me? Then they need to believe that the product or the company you're working for has credibility. And then they need to believe that whatever it is you're going to sell them also has credibility. It isn't something you just made up on the way in, even if it is. Then the sale is about features, advantages, benefits, which I'm sure you've all been taught. Except we think actually what's going on in the prospect's head is 3 different hurdles towards getting to, is this a benefit? Do I want it? And so first question that goes through somebody's head with a feature is this something I need? Usually I give an example of our ability to turn a presentation around in 24 hours. Do you need an effective pitch 24 hours from now? Probably not, because if you did, you would be working on it, not watching this video. And so you're not going to buy my service for delivering it in 24 hours because you don't need it. All right, let's say this is something you need and it's why you're watching the video. Well, if you need it, and next question is, can I deliver it? Do you believe that M62 has the capability of responding 24/7 and then turning a presentation deck around 24 hours? If the answer is don't believe you can deliver it, no sale. And then thirdly, if I believe you can deliver it, well, can I afford it? And that affording, by the way, isn't often money. Like, it's you've got to brief us for an hour. You've got to put some effort in for us to give you the content, for us to do the presentation for you. And so if I don't believe that I've got the capacity to brief you or the money to pay you, then no sale. If I press all 3 of these, this is something I need. I do believe they can give it to me, and I am prepared to pay the price, the cost, or whatever the effort is in order to make it happen. Maybe you get an order. 1 path, 3 hurdles for getting a deal. This one we call evaluation. Evaluating whether or not I need this or not. This one is the negotiation. Whatever price I say this is going to cost you, you know that's my starting price, and we're going to do a bit of haggling and blah, blah, blah. Okay? These two usually found in most people's presentation. The bit that's missing is this bit. The justification of our ability to deliver the value, whereas what's generally there is justification of the ability to deliver the service. And that's not what's going to flip the sale. Like, I know you can deliver whatever it is you're doing because you've built a business around it. The question is, do I believe you are the best person to do it with me? Can you deliver the value that you've promised me for this? And so it's proof of value. It's not proof of delivery of service. So that justification then is proof that we can deliver the benefit. Then we're going to ask for the order, hopefully get a no, so that we can say why not. And they can say, well, it needed to be in pink, so that we can say, well, if we could deliver it in pink, could we have the order? They would say yes, and then we get the order. Classic selling. Let's make this look like, how would we flow the information into the deck? Well, obviously, we're going to do an introduction, which is empathy and credibility, short and sweet. Then we're going to do the value proposition. Here's the reason why you should buy this. Then we're going to prove that we can deliver the value of that reason. Then we're going to summarize with the value. Then we're going to have a Q&A. Then we're going to close. Right, let's map that over our 20-minute pitch. How do we influence at the front end here the value proposition? The best way of influencing this, they're going to make their decision here, is to have the value proposition here. By having the VP here, we massively increase the chances that they decide to pay attention and that they listen through those positive ears. Now, we want to ask for the order before they fall asleep, so we want to repeat the value proposition here before the end. Before they all start to snooze, that's where I'm going to close and ask for the order. That means the bulk of my presentation is the justification, the proving our ability to deliver. We're going to have the Q&A here, whilst the FD is really interested in the price but nobody else is. Then we're going to summarize again the value proposition and ask for the order at the end. And the last thing we write is the first thing we show them, which is the introduction of what do they need to see so that this bit makes sense, and we build empathy and credibility in 3 to 4 minutes. That's how we structure a 20-minute sales presentation. Now, what most people do is not this. What most people do is, well, let me start telling you all about my business. Here's about what I do. Here's where we do it. Here's how many offices. Here's how many people. Here's our qualifications. Here's a deep dive on the people who are going to do the work for you. Here's our systems. Here's our processes. Here's everything we think is cool. By the way, did you know we have a mission statement? And here are our values. And here, and like everything I am proud of about my organization, I'm going to tell you. And then right at the end of the presentation, I'm going to go, here's some things we think you might be interested in. And if you're interested, if you've got no questions, give us a call when you're ready. Let me summarize. Me, aren't I great? Me. Here's some stuff you might be interested. Call us when you are. As opposed to our structure, which is, well, here's a little bit about me so that you know that I'm not an idiot and I'm not a fool and we're credible. But you know what? You don't really care about me, do you? Here's what's in it for you. Here's the benefit to you. Here's how we deliver it. You can have your business. If not, why not? What do I need to do to get it? If I do that, can I have it? Thank you very much. It's not rocket science, but it's a completely different structure in the information. This is we have. This is you need. This wins 1 in 4, 1 in 5 deals. This wins 3 in 4, 4 in 5 deals. You are 3 times more likely to win if this is what you pitch rather than this, which is what most people have. This is our IP that underpins this. None of this is we guess. All of this is we have science to back this up. This is the scientific way of getting people to say, yes, please, I'd like you to do this for me.